Here's a special news bulletin. Godzilla is now in New York City. The city's been invaded by Godzilla.
Welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where it's all about the monster. We are a creature feature podcast about monsters and why we love them. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and with me is...
your other host, Khalid Hussein.
What's going on, Khalid?
Not much, Joe. What's going on with you?
Not much. Just, I'm excited to talk some Godzilla. You're not Godzilla'd out, are you, yet?
Not even close.
Good. I got a lot of Godzilla left in me.
Okay, I got like maybe half a tank of Godzilla in me. I don't want to overpromise.
that'll get you through it. That'll get you through the KAIJUBILEE series, which we're calling this celebration of Godzilla for his 70th anniversary. This is episode 3 of KAIJUBILEE, and I'm really excited to bring on our special guest today. Joining us is returning to the podcast, Howard Berger, who is a special makeup effects creator, co-founder of KNB EFX. You worked on over 400 film and television projects, won an Academy Award for Best Makeup on Chronicles of Narnia, got an Emmy for The Walking Dead. I'm sure I'm missing other things. Howard, welcome back.
Thanks so much, guys. I'm really I'm excited. Of course, listen, I'll talk about monsters anytime. I mean, I have monsters on the brain, but when we start talking about Godzilla, that's a whole different world. So,
man,
he truly is the king of the monsters. So it's really fun to talk about that specific monster. I love Godzilla. I love him.
Yes, I'm really excited to hear your insights. Come as a VFX professional, especially. But could you tell us just a little bit about your background as a Godzilla fan and your experience with the franchise?
Absolutely. So when I was really little, there were Aurora monster bottle kits, and the first one I saw was at a friend's house, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I wasn't even in first grade. This was like nursery school, and I was like, "What are all these?" He had all these monster models up on his wall, and the kid's name was Michael Glass, and wherever he is, that was 60 years ago. But anyhow, there was one monster I didn't recognize, and I'm like, "What is that one?" Because I knew King Kong and the Creature and Phantom of the Opera and all that stuff. And he said, "Oh, that's Godzilla," and I'm like, "God." I couldn't pronounce the name. I'm like, God, what is it? It's Godzilla. I took it down and I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like, I've never seen this monster before. Became obsessed. My parents came and picked me up after my play date, and there was a Sears up the street. And I said, we have to go to Sears tonight because they have these Aurora monster model kits that Michael had in his room. And there's this one Godzilla, and I have to have it. I can't live without it. So my parents put me in the car. We drove to Sears, and there was a giant stack of models, but they were all the King Kong ones. And I'm like, no, it has to be Godzilla. It has to be Godzilla. And so my dad went and asked the guy, and he's like, oh yeah, we have one Godzilla in the back. And I was like, oh, Dad, please, I'll do it. And they were $1.49 at that point. And my folks were not well off at that point, but somehow they mustered $1.49 for the kid. And so they brought it out, and I gripped onto it. It was so magical. Went home. My dad helped me build the model, and this was they were glow in the dark then. That's when the glow in the dark came out. So I would take the head and put it in my hand and hold it up to the light, and then go in a dark room and look at it and see Godzilla's head glowing, and it was just so thrilling. And the color of the plastic was really specific. It was like a weird blue green. It wasn't teal. It was more on the green side, but it stayed with me forever and ever, and it's become like one of my favorite colors. I'm like, that's Godzilla green. So, but we built it, and then I ended up collecting all the other Auroras. But Godzilla always stood out for me. And my dad worked in the film industry. He was a post-production sound editor, and he knew how much I loved monsters. And he had a friend that worked at Columbia Studios, and at the time, AIP was releasing or was making those movies, buying those movies from Japan, and Columbia was releasing them. And he was able to get me like a press kit, and it had tons of photos of Godzilla. I still have them in a book. I have a Godzilla book, and I was just like, it had Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, and it had Destroy All Monsters, and had all these great things, and it was just, I was just overwhelmed by Godzilla, and it just became my obsession. Between Godzilla and King Kong were the big things, but like for a week I would storm around as King Kong, and then like another week I would storm around as Godzilla, trashing stuff. And I kept thinking, like, I wonder how they do the fire. So when the radioactive breath comes out, and I found like a can of scent stuff that was in the bathroom, and I held it up to my mouth and sprayed it out. I'm like, that's how they must do it. It's got to be that. There's like a spray paint thing in Godzilla's mouth. Of course, there's not. It's a rotoscope or what have you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just all obsessed, and that was like my first big time. Like I said, I was into all the Universal monsters, but they were all human, human-esque or humanoid. But Godzilla was like the first time he was like, this is a real monster. So I mean, that was it. That's what began my 60-year love with Godzilla.
Wow.
I love that. I love how you're saying, like, how do they make the breath, and you're like, figure it's like the makings of a young VFX worker right there.
Totally. It's like, how they do that? I just wanted to know. Well, that was really it. Like, I always wanted to know, how did they do that? How did they do that? And my dad would try to explain it. Well, they make these guys that make these little miniatures, and there's a guy. Godzilla's actually a guy in a suit. And I'm like, there's a suit like that somewhere. I'm like, how do I see it? How do I put it on? I want to hold the Godzilla head, and I remember, obviously seeing all the movies, and in Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, the little kid in the movie has a Godzilla toy, and it looked pretty big. And I'm like, where the heck do you get those? I want a Godzilla. How does that kid have a Godzilla toy and I don't have a Godzilla toy? Because at that time, Godzilla wasn't as popular as it is now, and there weren't like toys, Godzilla toys and monster toys everywhere you look. But yeah, no, I was totally obsessed. And my grandmother took a trip to Japan, and she brought back a mechanical like robot Godzilla for me, and it was battery operated. It was two C batteries, and it was like a little tin Godzilla, and you'd have a little switch, and it would walk and then make the noise, and the mouth would open, and there'd be like a red light inside the mouth. And I still have that as well, and it's like the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, that's the greatest toy. So as Godzilla became more and more famous now as he is, and especially after Godzilla -1, which is the world's greatest Godzilla film, in my opinion. Yeah, it's cool to see all the neat Godzilla stuff, and how people like really, really love Godzilla. And I love the fact that the Toho Godzilla, which I think is the best, far exceeds the American Godzilla movies. Even though I go and see them, they miss the point. The American Godzilla films they miss the mark. They don't get it. Whatever it is, there's too much story, there's too much talk, not enough Godzilla. And the Japanese ones are just like, here we are, and here are the monsters, which is why I love Destroy All Monsters so much. That's my favorite one, because scene one, we're there on Monster Island, and they introduce, the cavalcade of monsters, and I'm like, look at this, I want to live on that island. This is like the most fun ever. Like, I could be with all these guys. There's the baby guy, Minya Baby Godzilla, and there's that guy and this guy, and there's monsters I've never seen before, and they live with Godzilla and Rodan, and there's Mothra. It's really fantastic. So great movie.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like you said, to see like the resurgence of excitement for Godzilla. There's so much like new like Godzilla content coming up. But yeah, it's really exciting to go back to these old ones and kind of just see like where it started, and just kind of like what it's all about, and like where it's gone. And so it's a lot of fun. Before we start digging into the movie, though, I forgot to mention when I was introducing you, Howard, to plug Masters of Makeup Effects, because I always, whenever I get a chance to talk to people who like monster stuff, I always try to recommend the book. It's really good. It's your book that you co-authored with Marshall Julius, and it's just about creature effects, makeup effects, and it's really good. So anyone who's listening who hasn't checked that out, highly recommended. I will put a link to that as well. That being said, Khalid, I actually have a quick question for you before we move into the movie.
Oh, geez. All right. On with it.
Khalid, what would you say is Godzilla's favorite type of story?
Ooh. Okay. This is promising. I want to know what this is. Like, not even as much about guessing it, but okay. Favorite type of story, Godzilla. Do you mean like genre?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't want to waste too much time. What is it?
A tall tale.
That's good. That
Uh,
that paid
Oh,
off.
that was good. Oh yeah,
That
you
was a
like it.
good one.
And
That was a good one. A tall tale.
there we go. That's a segue, Khalid. What are we
there you
talking
go.
about?
Thank you for asking, Joe. Today we are talking about the 1968 movie Destroy All Monsters. I guess it would be sci-fi. I don't know what you would call this. Um, and I've got it was directed by Ishirō Honda, and I've got a synopsis from our homeboy Google that goes a little something like this. Scientists face Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and more obscure Japanese monsters sent by she-aliens.
What a monster!
They're creatures of the abstract that live off potential energy.
It's alive!
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Wow. Well, we'll get into it. Wow. What a synopsis.
That's a hell of a synopsis.
That is. Yeah. Well,
that says it all.
it kind of does. I mean, it's just the monsters are there. There are aliens involved, and
She-aliens.
yeah, she-aliens.
Right. Yeah,
The distinction is
Kilax.
important and also inaccurate.
Yeah, the Kilax.
The
Kilax.
Kilax. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Kilax.
Or are they all women? I guess they just possess men.
Yeah.
I think that they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get into the mind control stuff, but I want to talk about what are our thoughts on this? So Howard, you kind of suggested this one for our series, and you said it's your favorite. Can you give us a little reason why it's your favorite, and what do you just general thoughts on this movie?
Absolutely. Well, why it's my favorite is it's probably the one I've seen the most. And so when I was growing up, and like I said, my dad was in the industry, and he was a complete movie fanatic, and we had like a little mini movie theater in our garage, which I thought all people had. I just took it for granted that doesn't everybody have a 35 millimeter projector in their garage, and their dad runs movies. So every birthday, my dad would show a movie, and we got to pick. I have 3 sisters; they would pick, whatever Sound of Music, and who knows what. But I was every year for 4 years in a row, Destroy All Monsters. Every year. So I would have a birthday party, which was Godzilla themed, and my mom would make a Godzilla cake, and my dad would run Destroy All Monsters, and it just was such a favorite of mine. And really, I love the opening of the film. I love when they introduce all the monsters. They're just there being super cool, and I guess they're all friends until, of course, the aliens come and brainwash them to destroy everything, because they're living a nice life on the island, I think, for a while. But there's just something about the movie. I think it's because there's so many monsters. It's not just Godzilla, or it's not just this guy or that guy. And I love the alien. Hook as well. I think there's these little alien girls, the Kilax, like we said, who we find out they're just like these weird little worm things or whatever crawling into rocks. Which I don't know if that's some sort of commentary on how the filmmakers felt about women. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's super cool, and I mean, I don't know. Everything about the movie's cool. It moves really fast. It's an hour and like 35 minutes. The funny thing is, it takes place in 1999, so they were really off the mark. Like watching it now, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't really happen that way. 1999 did not look that way.
No moon bases.
No moon bases. No, we were pretty far off from guessing what it was. But I think it's also interesting to look at just the genesis of Godzilla's personality, because like obviously in the original Godzilla movie, he's kind of just a mindless monster that's blowing that stuff up and angry and mad, and same with Godzilla -1. He's back to being his real shitty self, and then but later in the movies we meet his little Minya, his son, and it's like, hey, there's my dad, and Godzilla's kind of like a okay guy, and he's helping everybody out. He's actually misunderstood, but I don't know. I just think the movie has so much going on, and there's so many cool things. It has those guys running around, like the kind of Japanese Secret Service have these cool guns. They're shooting at the aliens. So that are in human form, that have like possessed some of the other people on Earth, have these cool guns. They're shooting at each other. They make this kind of like weird little noise. There used to be this toy that it was like part of like NASA's toy line or something, I remember, and you would pump it up and it would shoot out like a sound wave, but you could feel it, but it made a really interesting noise, and you get a little poof out of it. And that's what it kind of felt like they were running around like shooting these things. And I don't know, there's just something fun about that, and people running around. And of course, the thing that really got me as a kid, which kind of freaked me out, was the aliens would implant like this little teeny like silver ball that was like the controlling thing in people's necks. So there's the one main scientist. They find there's like a little scar on his neck, and they cut it open and they pull this little ball out, and that totally grossed me out. I was like, oh my God, that's what's going to happen to all of us. These aliens are going to put these things in, and then the one girl, the lead girl, has these earrings that have it, and I just remember really cringing when the one of the guys takes the earrings and just literally rips them out of her ears and just tears her earlobes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that was so horrifying to me.
It was gnarly.
It was super gnarly.
Yeah.
It was really violent, and I was like, oh my God, maybe because that's something you could like, understand or relate to. Not that I've, had that done ever, wear earring, but it's just like skin, your earlobe being torn, and then of course she was all good. She came out of her control of the aliens had over her. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of great miniatures. There's tons of great destruction. Godzilla keeps going back to Tokyo a couple times to destroy it. I don't know. The movie just holds a lot of really fun things for me and a lot of really great memories. When I watched it just recently, you're always worried about stuff you see when you're younger. Like, I just love this. Like, let's say Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer. And then you watch it now, you're like, oh my God, how could I have ever liked this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, Jesus, this is really bad. But the Godzilla movies, they age really well. And so I hadn't seen Destroy All Monsters for a really long time, even though I'd seen it probably at least 50 times when I was a kid. And then watching it again, and I watched it on Criterion, and it was in Japanese, which I'd never seen it in Japanese, which was super cool. And it was as good as I recall. And my wife came in, and I said, okay, I'm going to watch Destroy All Monsters in Japanese. So don't sit here and like him and haw and make like sighs and like you're annoyed. If you're going to do that, just get the hell out of the room, because I'm going to have a nice night watching Godzilla. And I'll tell you, she sat down and she watched the whole movie and she really liked it. So I felt I can still stay married. Because if she didn't like it, then I'd probably have to maybe talk about getting a divorce.
It's worth a talk. It's worth it.
But the Godzilla movies, luckily my wife understands my crazy obsession with monsters and Godzilla, and embraces all of that with me, which is really nice. I think she does it to humor me to some degree, but there's just no way. I mean, even just now, right before we did this, we were downstairs talking, and she said, what house you would love if you could build a house? What would it be? I said, I don't know, maybe this or this. She's like, no, it would be a giant Godzilla hand that was 1-to-1 scale, and that there was like a tent, and you could live in that, and all your friends would come over and hang out, and you could live inside Godzilla's hand. And I was like, yeah, maybe I would do that. That's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
So, why not?
It's a good thing you two found each other.
I guess. Yeah. Lucky her. So, but I also love the design of Godzilla in this movie. I think he looks really cool. There's some Godzilla versions I'm not so keen on. I know people, I'm sure people will be upset, like Shin Godzilla. I'm not a big fan of that design. And I remember seeing Shin Godzilla, and I'm like, I'm not digging it. I don't know. There's something about it, but I'm a traditionalist. I love all the suit stuff. I just there's just something about it that's relatable to me. And I got to build a Godzilla suit once for a movie.
Really?
I worked on Ted 2, and there's a scene in a Comic-Con when they go to Comic-Con.
Oh.
So I went to Seth MacFarlane. I'm like, can I please just design and build anything I want? He's like, yeah, go ahead, Howard, do what you want. So I called the shop, and I said to Greg Nicotero, I said, Greg, we can build a Godzilla suit, dude, and Seth is going to pay for it. and we built a Godzilla suit, and it was bloody cool as shit. And I had the tail on a wire, and I hired a guy named Bill Bryan to build it, who built and played Stay Puft in the original Ghostbusters.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Cool.
And so it was super cool. And I want to say, I don't think Bill played in it because he was too small. But I had a guy that was a good size in there. And so anyhow, if you watch Ted 2, towards the end, they go to the Comic-Con, and there's all these monsters. We did tons and tons of stuff. But my favorite was Godzilla. And I remember I walked on set. I was so excited. And I'm like, Seth, Godzilla's here. Godzilla's here. And he was kind of not in the best mood that day. And he looked around, and he's like, yeah, it's cool, Howard. It's cool. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, it's cool. It's Godzilla. Godzilla's on set. Godzilla's going to be in your movie. It doesn't get better than this. So I was so overjoyed that Godzilla was on set for like a week. And it was just so fun. But yeah, I think we built the Godzilla. I'm pretty sure the Godzilla was like, I was trying to be as faithful to Destroy All Monsters as possible, and
Yeah.
that's what I want, guys. Let's build this Godzilla from Destroy All Monsters.
This version. That's a delightful story. Hopefully Seth looks back and is like, no, that was really cool.
I don't know. I'll ask him. He probably will go like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, yeah.
Also, I know it's all just anecdotal, but I'd like to think your entire life has revolved around you just evangelizing about Godzilla to anyone who will hear it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, listen. I mean, I've had conversations about, in reality with quotes, if Godzilla and King Kong fought, who would really win? And there's also the size discrepancy. Like, King Kong, we know kind of how King Kong is. I mean, Godzilla is really a lot bigger than King Kong, but somehow in the movies he always kind of shifts. Like in King Kong versus Godzilla, they're kind of like a little eye to eye.
Yeah.
It's like, Godzilla's way bigger than that, even in these new movies. But that's okay. Godzilla can change the size.
Kind of do that sometimes in the movies. They the size is a little bit not always consistent.
No, it's okay, and it's part of the fun.
It really is.
But yes. But yeah, what do you here? I'll ask you this question. So if Godzilla and King Kong really fought, who do you think would win?
I feel like I'm at the point now, like getting into Godzilla, like with this series, like I grew up more with Godzilla than King Kong. I don't know why I never got into King Kong myself as a kid, but I had like Godzilla action figures. I was really into the Millennium era. That's when I was growing up, so I was watching a lot of those ones. I would go with Godzilla, but just be the sheer like idea that he has like the atomic breath, like he's got so much extra going for him,
Yeah.
Like
No, I know. I hear what you're saying. Definitely. What do you think?
I gotta say Godzilla. Yeah, I mean it's the same boring thing. Like me and my friend used to fight about how like, oh yeah, like Iron Man would be able to be Black Panther, and be like, no, he wouldn't. Black Panther could do this, this, and this. And he's like, yeah, but Iron Man could just shoot him. Until he has a way to shoot something back, like what are we talking about here?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a close call because Kong definitely has intelligence. Not that Godzilla doesn't, but Godzilla is more of like just a monster on the rampage to some degree. But Kong can use tools. He can kind of maybe outsmart. But I think you're right. I think the breath, the radioactive breath, is the clincher.
Yeah.
And I think that probably would get rid of Kong. Do Kong in, sadly.
Yeah. And I know the movies have made it to be more of equal footing, but I think I'm with you. Like in the reality of the discussion, like power sets from the beginning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, King Kong with a slingshot. Now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Well, isn't that King Kong X Godzilla or whatever that
the new one?
Doesn't he have like a mechanical hand or something?
It's got like a super boxing glove or something. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't think I can get myself to see it. So, which is, maybe I'll catch it on something. But
yeah, I think it's on HBO or it's on Max now, I think.
Yeah, it's on Max. So, but listen, I'll just go back really quick to Godzilla -1. After that, I think everything else is going to pale in comparison, except if they make Godzilla -2, which would be great. So,
I think that's going to be the last one we do in the series. I believe is -1 when we're going to end on that one, which will be a fun note to end on.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's really something else.
So with talking about Destroy All Monsters a little bit, I kind of wanted to just like a little bit of background. So we've been touching on these movies, the previous two that we've done or earlier on, like the 60s. This is actually the 9th film in the Godzilla franchise. It's the 7th of 8 that were directed by Ishirō Honda. And an interesting thing about this movie, the budget of this one was 3 times that of the original 1954 Godzilla.
Looks like it.
One of the most expensive Japanese films ever made at the time. And I think that one of the reasons that I'm glad that you chose this one for us, Howard, is that I think that the ones that we've been doing for the series have each kind of upped the weirdness level in a different and significant way. Like with Mothra from the first one, we looked at like they introduced like the fairy characters and like this kind of fantastical element. And then here, now we're getting into the places like, I know that like Invasion of the Astro Monster does aliens too, but like now we're looking at alien invasions. We're looking at like lots of monsters, like the future, like sci-fi elements to it, like adding like all these different dimensions to it. And like, even like you were mentioning with the mind control, like there's that kind of like that paranoia piece, almost like like horror, like puppet masters or something, kind of things like that, like evocative of those kind of stories. And so just like a lot of new storytelling elements that ups the game from like the previous ones. And I think it's just a really fun fun movie to watch all in all. Like I had a blast with it. One of the things that really stood out to me though, like, is just the design aesthetics of it all. Like the
Yes.
Kallax, like the alien outfits were super fun, but really like the Japanese space outfits, the yellow
they're
space
super cool.
outfits, the yellow jumpsuits. Love the just like starkly green moon base. Like the colors were so much fun. Like I love that like retro futuristic vibes, like in the original Star Trek, for example, like the purples, and you get all these like bright colors, almost Technicolor-esque. Like maybe they use Technicolor, I'm not sure, but like it's just really cool to see like all those colors pop, when I feel like sometimes a lot of in movies like more today, like it's a little bit more dour depending on the movie, but like back then it was just always pop, and they're like, look at the colors we can do here, and I love that like statement making in a sense. But
no, absolutely, yeah, and you're right about that. The costumes are great.
Yeah, they're super fun.
And even like the Secret Service guys and the Secret Service alien,
like the
guys,
tan suits.
Yeah, they're super cool.
Or browns,
yeah, they're totally cool. I mean, those are like really pretty hip clothes, you know.
They are super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a hit on all the girls, you know, even the Kylax or whatever. There's something cool about them. I like their like little tinfoil headdresses.
The outfits,
stuff,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
like, it's cool.
Even the animation, I think it's like the kind of like I don't know, maybe it's rotoscope or is it cell animation? I'm not sure what they use on it, but like kind of with the like the effects and like the fire monster, the fire dragon at the end, like that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, you got Ghidra at the very end of the movie too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we'll dig into the monsters for sure in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. It's just a blast to see. But Khalid, what did you think of this movie? I'm very curious. Like you're one of the more the newest to Godzilla here, I'd say.
I am the newest of the Godzilla fans, yeah. Thank you for asking. I think that this movie rules for a lot of the reasons that you guys stated. I love this idea of like the monsters at this point kind of having like a pro wrestler kind of air to them, you know. And it just, I don't know why. It just like I mean, obviously, like the final scene with Ghidorah and like them like just stomping the crap out of it, like 5-on-3 technically. That was so cool and like very pro wrestlery. But even before that, like I think we get like 2 different like prolonged sequences of a guy just announcing monsters as they appear, and it never got old. I just kept, I was like, keep naming them. I didn't even know that guy was here. That's awesome. And then, the other aspect of it, the design of it, it's just such a like visually satisfying movie all the way through. And a lot of that has to go to, credit goes to the wardrobe, which is just like, so it's just, I don't know. It's what you want from like sci-fi is like, figure out the excuse, but like make it just like something that you just like love to look at. You know what I mean? Like a lot of movies that do sci-fi and stuff like that, I feel like they go for like a more muted, understated thing to be quote unquote taken seriously. And I'm like, nah, man, they wear primary yellow and they fly around space, and that's just how it goes. And then, like, I think aside from all of like, just like the visual things about it, or like the kind of like cheeky parts of it, I'm also really just like loving this thing of like, I don't know if we've ever seen a director that's like 8 or 9 movies deep into a series. So we're just like, we're seeing not only like the limitations of a Godzilla narrative like stretched, but like we're seeing it from the guy who was there from its inception. So it's like, it just feels like a lot of the times when you're like watching like a sequel from a director or something, like the best directors like George Miller, you know, it'll be like, oh, like you can tell he always wanted to do something like this, or maybe he watched the old movies and was like, man, I wish I could have done this, and then he gets to do it in the next movie. And I think that's like, from a fan point of view, that's like the most satisfying thing, is like watching a director outdo themselves or like find like new pockets of like inspiration. And so obviously we've been jumping around, so a lot of this might have been in other movies and I just don't know it, but like I love just like the reverse POV of like King Ghidorah, where it's like you're watching him like soar down. Like I don't think we'd seen that before. Obviously the fighting is it's still obviously like people in suits or puppets or whatever, but you can just tell like visually it's a lot more audacious, and like you lose yourself to it a lot easier than some of the older ones. And I just, this is a really compelling movie in a lot of ways.
Also, there's all the spaceship stuff too.
I didn't even get to the
Cool.
spaceship stuff.
Yeah, the spaceship stuff. I mean, when they land on the the moon or whatever, and those jets are firing, and I'm like, that's really cool because it looks like that was all practical. You know, it wasn't rotoscoped or cell animation. Like they were firing fire out of that model. You know,
Mhm.
and it's really cool. But yeah, no, it definitely kept raising the bar in those movies. You know, and maybe that's also why I really love it. Because like watching the prior ones, which are all fantastic, but there's sometimes it takes a little bit. As a kid, you want to get. I'm just interested in the monster stuff and monsters fighting, and this movie has a tremendous amount. It's got good story stuff, but man, it delivers with the monsters. And like you said earlier, like it introduces the monsters. It is like a wrestling movie. It's like in this corner we got Godzilla, in this corner is Rodan, and it's kind of that, and that's super cool, and that was really exciting. It's like, wow, those are, and again, there's monsters on there. I'm like, I've never seen that monster. I don't even know what the hell that monster
Same.
is.
Yeah.
What does that guy do, and why is he there? But I still think he's cool. Like there's that dragon one, like it's
oh yeah,
one?
yeah, the real long one.
Yeah, you see him like briefly in the beginning, and then he comes out of the ground, and then he's there at the end, and I'm like, I've never seen that monster. I kind of wonder if they're like, I don't know, just see what's in the storage room. And we'll kind of refab it, and we'll just throw them all on Monster Island. It'll be great. Or in the movie, isn't it called? It's called like Monster World or something.
Monster Island, is it?
Monsterland.
Monsterland.
That's right, Monsterland. But I in my head, maybe I'm wrong. In the American version, as a kid, it was Monster Island. But maybe I'm thinking differently. Maybe it is just Monsterland. But I've always like that's Monster Island. But yeah, Monsterland. But either one, it's good. I would visit Monster Island or Monsterland. I'm good with both.
How big do we think Monsterland is relative to like Tokyo? Because it houses several kaiju comfortably.
Yeah. I mean, I think when they have those shots from afar, it doesn't look very big.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a good piece of land there for all of them to. But I think also, there's also underground stuff. They can go underground and all that. So there's. I think it might be not as big on top, but maybe it goes down deep, and that's where all the fun shit is. I guess.
Yeah,
But,
and some of the kaiju are burrowers too, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's some there that, and then Rodan, you got flyers. So I mean, I guess they have different dimensions of where they are.
Yeah, and Mothra's pretty cool in it too. I like that version of Mothra.
Yeah, the larva. I do wish we would have seen the moth version of Mothra, right. But I was still glad to see Mothra here.
Yeah, so it was cool.
Is it the thing where like Mothra? Because in the one we saw, Mothra reincarnates as two like larvae. So is the idea that this one is just, or again, like I don't even know if continuity is a thing with these movies. So I don't know.
I don't think it is. I don't think continuity is ever a thing. I mean, if that was the case, I don't know. I mean, you could even ask like, where did the baby Godzilla? Where did Minya come from? Like, is that just like spontaneous generation or something, or did Godzilla lay an egg and Minya came out of it?
I love some of the questions you're asking because I actually have some of the answers when we get in the monsters here. I have a list of the monsters, and some of those I'm like smiling because I got some of these answers here for you.
Oh wow, I'm excited! After all these years, I can get answers.
Yeah. So I mean, should we monster you guys?
Let's monster.
Let's just get in the monster stuff. Before we get into the specific monsters, I did want to shout out one of the VFX supervisors in the Godzilla franchise who we actually kind of criminally haven't really touched on much in this series yet is Eiji Tsuburaya, who did most of the visual effects of the films and helped co-create Godzilla himself. He actually had a supervisory role on this one, so he didn't do the VFX work, but he's like this pioneering like VFX worker. Like worked on 250 films, I think, over 5 decades. I'm sure Howard, you would know way more about him than I do, but he's someone I feel like we'd be remiss to not touch upon when talking about Godzilla.
Great. Yeah, I mean, all those guys are super geniuses. I mean, the fact
like the creativity.
Incredible. I mean, just the fact that I love the fact that how honorable Godzilla is in Japan. Like, I mean, he's really sacred. It's not like a thing like, oh yeah, we don't want to talk about that. These are the Japanese people and Japan are so proud of Godzilla and what they've created. I mean, they have that whole hotel. The whole Godzilla hotel. Tokyo, which I would love to go and just stay there.
Same.
It looks so much fun, but I mean, there's Godzilla stuff all over the place.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge, and just like the sheer like I said, creativity or like the ingenuity that went into
Yeah,
creating all this. Like we see, like we've been talking about the concept of suitmation, like the guys in suits, but
sure.
also just like the miniature work. There's like puppeteering, like some monsters are
Yeah,
puppets, some monsters are people in suits, and they just make it all work. Like you're just
yeah,
convinced that they're all fighting. It
yeah.
it's super fun. But
Oh, it's
um
super. Yeah.
so ultimately in this movie we get 11 monster characters, which
Mm,
actually technically 12 because I didn't include Fire Dragon, which is the animated one, but
mm,
11 ones that are like puppets or suits. We have Godzilla, which is again portrayed by Haru Nakajima, who's been doing it a bunch. We have Rodan. Khalid, do you know much about Rodan?
I feel like has Rodan come up before?
Not in the ones we've talked about. Rodan's a big one. It was first introduced in '56. Honda directed a movie called Rodan. It's like a prehistoric pteranodon. It was underground and mutated from exposure to radiation. I think Rodan was initially like nuclear threat from the Soviet Union was like an allegory there,
Mm.
but it's like part suitmation and part like wire puppets for the flying sequences. So Rodan's the pteranodon. Rodan's pretty famous one. I wanted to give Rodan his due there.
yeah.
We also see, and I always pronounce this one wrong, but it's Anguirus, I believe it's pronounced. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was cool looking too with all the spikes.
that's the kind of
Yeah,
Ankylosaurus one. That was the
yeah.
one that first appeared in the second Godzilla film, which is Godzilla Raids Again, the first big showdown opponent. So I think this was the first appearance of that one since then.
Mm,
Oh.
We have Gorosaurus, which is a dinosaur one. We got Mothra in the larva form. Manila, or I think there's another name for it, but the son of Godzilla, right? The little one. What did you call him,
yeah.
Howard?
I always knew him as like Minya. I thought it was Minya,
I
but
mean,
who
that's probably
knows?
how you pronounce it. I'm reading
Yeah.
it, and it's probably pronounced Minya. But that character was first appeared in 1967, the film Son of Godzilla, and
Right.
as the adopted son of Godzilla, it was an egg that was found on an island that
Uh,
Godzilla just decided to play father to.
That's I
okay,
don't know.
well there
Adopted
that
just took me out.
Adopted.
yeah, yeah. Godzilla's like, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I that's I know. Maybe I knew that, but yeah, because I always was like, where the hell did that thing come
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I mean, so it's a really interesting character. Like it was portrayed by an actor, Masao Fukazawa, who's like a little person, like
from?
famous kind of suit actor in Japan at the time, and I think he portrayed him a bunch. But he did a great job, and I think
Yeah,
it's a very interesting character to have to play because he kind of doesn't get to be part of the fight. He just hops around.
right.
Like
Excuse me.
at the end there.
He breathes
Well,
the
that's true.
KO lasso
True,
around King
Yeah,
Ghidorah,
true.
that is
Yes,
true.
which
yeah.
I love the animation. I love that they didn't even try to explain like how that power that we have
Or what
not
that is.
up until now we had no idea if that thing could do anything other than jump,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
it does that.
Oh my god, that was so much fun. Yeah, and I was reading a review where someone talked about Minya as like the Scrappy Doo of Godzilla, and I'm like, I kind
Yeah.
of disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of is, but I kind of disagree because I
Yeah.
like him more than I do Scrappy Doo.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think he's cool, and he's cool looking too. He has like those kind of
Yeah,
like little sorrowful eyebrows. You know,
yeah,
his eyes are really big, and but yeah, he packs a wall up. With his little
totally.
circular radioactive breath. So
Yeah. So that's a fun one. We also have Baragon. I don't remember which one that was. Varan. I don't remember which one that is. Kumanga, which I noted is the giant spider. That
Oh,
was
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I like that one. And my favorite kind of one you were talking about, Howard, Manda, is the giant sea dragon. That was the one, the long snake-like one. So it's a sea
Right.
dragon kaiju who first appeared in the 1963 Toho movie Atragon, if I'm saying that right, which was also directed by Ishirō Honda. It was a guardian of an undersea kingdom. And the original version had like horns and spikes, but they took it out for this. But I just thought like this one was kind of the MVP for me because I thought the puppetry of it was so cool. Like the
Yeah,
sequence of it,
cool.
like curling around that train tracks and just crushing it
Yes.
was so cool.
Yeah.
So-
No, and that's true. It's like, when you're talking about the monster stuff, there is such a great combination of guys in suits and puppets and like the big spider thing. I mean, that's a giant puppet, and it works really well and it sprays all the stuff. And same with Mothra. Like I always wondered if that's like radio controlled, if they built something radio controlled, or if it's being puppeted through the floor like on a little track or something, because it does a lot of stuff actually. It raises up, So maybe it was like a cable operated puppeter. I don't know. I'd love to see.
when we talked about the Godzilla versus Mothra movie, it was kind of a
Uh-huh.
combination of the two in that one, at least. So I imagine it's something similar here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was
cool.
I loved Mothra and the giant spider teaming up to both shoot shit at Ghidorah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it brings me to the final one, King Ghidorah, which is another one of my favorites. So I actually had a toy of Ghidorah when I was young, before I even knew who Godzilla was. So I really loved that one a lot. But that one is the space monster. It first appeared in the film Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, in 1964, also from Honda. But is an ancient, like, extraterrestrial entity responsible for the destruction of, like, ancient civilizations. Was originally created as an homage to the 8-headed mythological Japanese dragon. But they decided to cut it down to 3 heads because they thought 8 would be too hard, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
And this one is interesting. I always think seeing Ghidorah on screen is fascinating because it is suitmation, but it's puppet. So it's like one that's both of those things happening. Like there's somebody in the suit, but there's puppeteers and like marionettes controlling the heads and the wings. And it sounds like from the people who have played that character that said it's probably one of the more grueling ones to portray because they have to kind of like balance and like maneuver with all that stuff going on. And I think it's pretty uncomfortable, but I think it pays off. It's cool.
Oh yeah, it's super fun. I love that it's gold.
Yeah.
You know, it has kind of like that gold fleece going on, and yeah, and that goes back to, you know, it just being all the different colors and how they punched everything in that movie. You know, with their costume design and production design, and yeah, that monster that's always been a favorite. You know, three-headed dragon creature guy. So, but yeah, it's so cool. I mean, and you know, you have all the other monsters through the course of the film, and then at the end of the film, you know, he shows up, and you're like, it just keeps getting better and better and better, you know. And yeah, that's part of the love of the film. It just keeps growing and growing. It keeps giving the audience more and more. It just doesn't like, okay, here's this, and we're going to stay at this for the rest of the, you know, this level for the rest of the movie. It keeps amping up more and more, especially when, you know, the monsters break out of their their control, you know, of the aliens or what have you. Then they just go hog wild and kick the shit out of everything.
Totally. I'm surprised how brutal they let them get too. Like at the end, like just stomping Ghidorah's like necks over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, yeah, that's what I would do too. Like, anytime I see like a long necked animal, like my in my mind, I'm like, if I have to defend myself, it's the neck.
Yeah.
Like,
just stomp on its neck.
Yeah. Like there's so many points of like it can't even defend itself, you know? Like, yeah, no. And I will say my favorite thing about the Ghidorah scene was when he comes in, the aliens are like, ha, how are you guys going to handle this? Right. This alien's from space, not like your stupid Earth giants. And it was like, I didn't know there was a distinction like that. I mean, it makes sense. Take pride in being an alien and having alien kaijus, but I didn't think that immediately disqualified all of the Earth kaijus. I feel like we still got a shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always wondered what it was like. I mean, have you guys, you know, ever talked to anybody who's been in this suit? I mean, Joe, you were just talking about somebody that was in one of the suits, that it was pretty grueling. But I've never met anyone who ever played in any of the.
Never. Yeah, I'd love to.
Suits. That would be pretty spectacular, and just to hear. I mean, you always see those photos. You know, the guys like in the bottom half with suspenders on, and you know, then they're going to put the top half of the monster suit on, which is so cool the way they built everything. But I mean, yeah, it's grueling to be a monster performer anyhow. But yeah, those guys, I mean, they just must have worked like dogs, and there's probably no air condition or ventilation, and just like the amount of action they're doing, and the wear and tear on the suits too. Like I keep thinking of it from like just a production standpoint. I'm like, God, they must have had to repair the shit out of that stuff. But in every shot, it looks great, you know, and you don't catch any problems, or you don't catch any of the wires, or, you know, it's just really well shot and edited too. The editing's always great in those movies as well. So it's funny that, you know, there's these horror movies, these little monster movies, but they're made with such love and such care and such technical advances as well, you know. It really opened the door for, I think, a lot of the stuff that we started doing here, you know, like people like Steve Wang, you know, who's a big creature creator who was really responsible for The Predator and a lot of other great things. And he did do the Guyver movies, and he was so influenced by all these Japanese monster movies, and that's what got him so obsessed in how to take the technology that the Japanese did, and then advance it. And we applied all those techniques to when we worked on Predator, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon from Monster Squad, and Steve kind of came and brought that Japanese technology with him to Stan Winston's shop, and that's how we kind of built things, was based on that universe, and like tearing out, like you put the suit on the guy and you tear the armpits out, because those are the first things that always tear, and then you take like what we call a snap mold. You take like a quick little mold impression of on there, and you sculpt like an underarm piece that fits in there, and that way when the monster lifts his arms up, you never have like tears or see any weird shit, underneath the arms, which is always the thing. Same with the crotch. You always tear the crotch out and then make an added piece, so the guy in the suit can really do anything, and it never falters or looks crappy. I mean, I couldn't imagine, and I'm sure they had this problem, like if they had tears and rips, they had to stop and repair things. But you can't tell anything. Those suits always look really, really like pristine in every single shot.
That's a really good point. I mean, for as much as like like the eyes can look cartoonish and like it's still very much like a suit, like there's never any kind of like rip in the facade or anything of it. Like you buy it for what it's like supposing to be.
Yeah, and I like the bagginess of the Godzilla suit too. I mean, there's some like funky little like rubber wrinkles and stuff, like in the bends in the legs and the arms, but I just think that's all part of the monster, and I love stuff like that. I mean, nowadays, if you had done Godzilla as a suit and you got those weird buckles, they would go in and digitally remove all that. Like, oh, that looks funky. But I think it's part of the charm and the reality, and it being a tangible monster, the tangibility of it all. It's like that really exists. It hasn't been effed with, and it works really, really well. And I just love it. Like same with 80s monster movies. I like to see buckles and weird rubber suit things doing things that look they're fake. But I'm like, hey, you know what? That's not digitally augmented. That looks great. It shouldn't look pristine. We should know it's a guy in a monster suit. And I really appreciate that stuff. I think all of us monster makers, we grew up loving that, and that's what still fuels us. I mean, I think just quickly jumping to Godzilla -1, I think they did a great job on that Godzilla. He feels like it could have been a suit, and I think they did a beautiful job blending, utilizing CGI, but they did a design that was very suit possible, and the movements and the way he bends his arms and all. I'm like, it could have been a suit, absolutely, but it's taking into account the respect of the guys that played those characters and worked their asses off. I was looking at IMDb, and there's like, which I can't stand, by the way, and because it's always full of shit. But there's no, it's all looking at the cast. There's not one single cast member that played a monster on IMDb.
Oh.
It's all just like the people, humans.
I did notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, where's all the guys that played the monsters? That's the cool shit, Those are the guys that should be celebrated. But they're kind of like the magicians, the people behind the curtain. You always wondered what they were like and what they did and what their day was like. And, was it another day like, I just got to go to work and be Godzilla today, or kind of in the suit, do your job, and then you go home. It's like, how was work? It's great. I destroyed Tokyo. Oh yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Sounds like a fun day.
Yeah, I just busted my head through the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wonder if those guys got trashed, because they do some pretty wild shit, man. And I think that it was pretty haphazard. It's like, yeah, we'll just put this guy on a cable and just drop him, or throw him through a building, and granted, there's a lot of padding in those suits, but still, it's like those guys must have taken a hell of a beating. It must have been a big job, but also it's a job of honor. So to play any of those monsters, so you take the hits as they come.
Yeah, like again, to bring it back to pro wrestling, it's like that mark of pride of like, you can say it's fake all you want, but I actually jumped off the top rope.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that, it's physically happening, and I think that's also what I love so much about the suit stuff is it's like, you can pretty much do anything with digital effects, and and I think some of it's cool, what have you, but man, when you see human beings defying gravity and doing these crazy stunts, and be it in a monster suit or not in a monster suit, I mean, I remember there was a James Bond movie. It was one of the Pierce Brosnan ones, and it was really bad. But there's a scene where he surfs in, and it was like all digital stuff.
Oh yeah,
like,
I know what you're talking
how
about.
dare they? Yeah, I was like, how dare they? And I remember I saw it with Robert Rodriguez, and he was like, what the hell is going on here? and I'm like, this film sucks. What's with this digital stunt guys? James Bond is about real people doing dangerous things, And that's what I love about the Godzilla movies, all these monster movies. Like, these guys were in these suits and they did death-defying stunts, and I'm sure it's safety. OSHA wasn't there. There was no real safety. Like, hey guys, we can't shoot this. This could possibly hurt somebody. It's like, no, throw the guy through a wall. It's fine, or light him on fire. He's okay. So it's pretty ballsy stuff. Those guys are pretty fantastic.
A different era, yeah.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah. Now you get people in suits and they're like, is this gonna hurt? Or I don't want to be in this. Or this is hot. It's like, dude, you're a stunt guy. Shut up.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of person. I think that whenever we get a chance to talk to anyone who does like monster acting or creature work, it's so fascinating to just hear the stories, because and they would probably say themselves, like, it's definitely not something for everyone.
No, it's not. And I think, the thing about being a monster maker is we've all played monsters. I mean, we played monsters as kids, but when we grew up, we would play monsters in movies. I've played a handful of creatures in creature suits. And a lot of us have, and it's such hard work, but it's so much fun because you're in a suit, you've got a head on, or you're in a makeup or something, you're not recognizable. And it really is, you take on this personality, but you're just willing to do anything and go for it. As a monster makers make the best monsters,
Oh yeah.
We live and breathe it. And so many times I've had people early in the 80s, we did a couple movies and we had people, actors or whatever in suits, and I'm like, this sucks, and I think you got to get out of the suit, and I'm like, I'm gonna get in the suit, and then I would play the part, and it worked out great. Or somebody else would jump in the suit. I'm like, dude, you got to do all these pieces because this guy sucks. And because monster makers know what to do, they know how to act. It's also funny because we're just always roaring and making noises, inside the suits, and even when we're puppeteering, there's been times when you're puppeteering a monster on set. And you're making the growly noises and the roars, but you're doing it unconsciously. And the camera guys or the sound guys will come over like, you need to you got to keep it down. You're ruining the take, And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Stop roaring.
Yeah. You're like doing the RCs. I'm like, okay, you got to be quiet. You're ruining the take. I'm like, oh, well, I can't help it. I'm acting. Even though I'm just puppeteering and I'm creating the monster's movements, and you got to have the noise, and that's what we all do. We love it, super fun. It's so much fun.
This conversation reminds me a little bit. You mentioned Steve Wang, actually. We earlier this year, one of our first ones we did this year, we did on the podcast the 1989 movie Arena, which had a little Steve Wang work in it, and I think I remember talking about him on that, and that was just like one of those kind of like monster makers kind of movie where it's like the movie is, you could argue what kind of sense it makes, but like the people who made the monsters are like having a blast with that one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was all done like at John Buechler's, studio back for Charlie Band. And I remember those guys were just going hog wild, and like they were just allowed to do whatever they wanted. You can look at it and go, okay, Steve made that one, Steve made that. Oh, Screaming Mad George made that.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's like a cavalcade of cool monsters, But that was back in the late 80s, and it's just like Charlie didn't care. It's just like make a bunch of cool shit and we'll shoot it. We'll write a storyline for it.
Yeah.
That was all those monster movies were that way. So
for sure,
it was really fun. But yeah, getting Steve Wang was a real big influence, and he was excited about everything. I think. Are you guys familiar with this Space Sheriff? Have you ever heard of Space Sheriff?
Space Sheriff? I don't think so.
Yeah, Space Sheriff. It's a Japanese thing. Anyhow, Steve was obsessed with it. And one day, the guy who played none of us ever heard of it either. Space Sheriff came in the stands, and Steve was like losing his fucking mind. And going on, and he's like, "No, it's Space Sheriff." And I'm like, "Yeah, Steve, I don't know who that is." Like, how could you not know about it? Forget it. I'm not talking to you anymore. And he'd run over and was like, "Wait, dude, Space Sheriff is here." It was all these crazy Japanese things that Steve just was crazy about it. Bring all this crazy stuff in, and it exposed us all that stuff. And then with Screaming Mad George, same thing, all that crazy Japanese stuff that we were being exposed to, and then utilizing it. It's like, well, this is how they did it in this show. If we can kind of do this, we can make it better. But this is a really good start. So it was fun. It was really good. It was really, back in the 80s and early 90s, it's like there was no rules. So we would just go for it and make shit and, put our friends in a Mike Geek. Like there's a movie called Cellar Dweller.
Oh, yeah.
And and Mike Geek, who's a makeup effects guy and also suit performer. He played the gargoyle in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, as well as the Mummy. I'd always put him in stuff, but he played the Cellar Dweller, and that was like the most uncomfortable suit. It was all like poly foam and shitty and, stuff. You get fiberglass in his head and all this stuff. But it takes a different breed to do that. That's why I always held all the guys that played all the Japanese monsters in such high regards, and felt like their name should be on IMDb, because those guys are the stars of the movies, in my opinion. So
yeah, I would agree with you. I think I didn't notice it technically on IMDb, but I do remember going to Wikipedia to actually find the names of who was in some of the suits for sure. So like there they had it at least. But yeah, that
okay.
I'm with you on that. That should be front and center for sure.
Absolutely, they're national heroes, for God's sake.
Yeah. And I just as an aside, Howard, it's one thing I'm just really enjoying about having you on this on the podcast is like all these guys that we've like talked about on the podcast with like reverence. You're just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. We it's really nice to hear.
There's an uncanny coolness to it.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It's fun. I mean, we all kind of came up the ranks, and loved all the same things. We always said if we all lived on the same block, it would have been the best. We definitely have the greatest Halloween of all times. But,
oh my gosh,
you would have had to call that block Monsterland.
Yeah, we could. There you go, yeah. Monsterland. Perfect. There it was. But no, man, it was a great time, and like I said, these Godzilla movies, all these movies are timeless, because here we are watching them. We watched them when we were little kids, and we're watching them, as teenagers, and then early adults, and now I'm still watching them. Like I said, we're watching them. We're in our 60s, for God's sakes, and Greg Nicotero and I are watching Godzilla movies, and he'll text me a photo. It's like, which one is this? I'm like, oh, that's this one, and that's Biolante. I'll text him like, what am I watching? He's like, oh, you're watching Destroy All Monsters again. So, but it's like we all have that. We're all really crazy about it, and can't get enough of it. I love the fact that it's so big. Like Japanese monsters are such a big thing of Americana now, and that the movie audiences love Godzilla and love those monsters and King Kong and all that stuff. And I mean, I think obviously when it originally played here through AIP, it was they were kind of low grade whatever movies, but those things, they stood the test of time. What is it? Godzilla's turning 70 this year, right?
70, yeah.
Yeah, 70. By the way, Godzilla's birthday is the same birthday as Tom Savini. I'm just going to point that out.
Really?
So, yes.
Fun fact.
They're both, fun fact, Tom Savini and Godzilla share a birthday. Huh. So, Tom's a little older than Godzilla, but nonetheless.
I was just going to ask, who was born first?
Yeah.
Tom was born about, I think Tom's going to be 78 this year.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he beats out Godzilla a little bit.
Yeah, he beats out Godzilla. Although Tom still looks like he's in his 40s. But yeah, no, I remember when it was Tom's birthday on Day of the Dead, and we're like, wait a minute, it's Godzilla's birthday too. That's how I always remember Tom's birthday. It's like somehow I remember Godzilla, and they're like, oh yeah, it's Savini's birthday too. So very exciting. I mean, to share your birthday with Godzilla, not too bad.
That's special.
That is very, very special.
Yeah.
Very special.
That's so fun. One last question about this movie before we wrap it up. I'm curious to each of you, taking Godzilla off the table, which of the monsters in Destroy All Monsters would you say is your favorite?
That's a good one.
I gotta give it up to Ghidorah. Like, came in so late in the game and still just like, again, like they named like 10 monsters at one point, and it just felt like overload, especially because a few of them just looked like Godzilla but a little different. So King Ghidorah coming in and just like putting in the work, and even just like, I for some reason, like I feel like it's a point towards King Ghidorah that like he got beat in such spectacular fashion, so I gotta give it up to King Ghidorah.
Good choice.
Yeah. No, that is a good one. I like the what's his name again? The spiky guy, the guy that looks like You were just thought he was the second. He's the second.
Anguirius. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Anguirius.
Yeah, something Anguirius. Yeah, I think he's cool looking. And
He is cool.
And I like his noise. You know, his roar or whatever.
Mm.
That's the other thing too. The sound design.
Oh yeah.
About that. But the sound design. I mean, Godzilla's roar alone is so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't. You know, that can never be mistaken for anything other than Godzilla. But all the other voices they have, or all the other noises they have for the creatures are really, really super cool. Which again is like really innovative. You know, I still wonder. Like, I mean, I know Godzilla is a mix of like probably 20 different animals. You know, do you know what
we did? We talked about on the first episode we did for this KAIJUBILEE. It's like it was like a bass. The string on a bass like played really slowly and like in a different direction. I can't remember exactly, but it was this kind of like a string slowed down. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There's just something about it. It's so cool. It's such a great
icon. Yeah, like you said, iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. You know, and I'm glad they've kept it through all the movies and. You know, and the music too.
The music's iconic.
Music was great.
Yeah, all the music and all the Godzilla movies is great.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm still a big part. I'm really partial to the Mothra one. It's a dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun. It's all great stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's iconic music. You know, you hear that. You know, da 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 da, and you're like, oh shit, that's. I had a friend. His name's John Fidel, who could play that on the piano, and we'd have parties. I'm like, John, do the Godzilla thing, and he could play the whole thing on the piano. It was so thrilling. I don't think he had a lot of girlfriends, but we love the fact that John could play the piano and play the Godzilla music on the piano. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a fun one. Apparently they wanted to include even more monsters, but I think they did. They were only able to do these many. But you guys have any final thoughts about Destroy All Monsters?
I mean, I think if people haven't seen it, they should see it, and definitely the Japanese version, which knowing the American version pretty well, because that's the only version I grew up with. They definitely say different things, and I like watching movies like this that are in its natural or its native tongue. You know, it's the way it should be seen and heard. And I know some people bitch and complain about subtitles, but you get used to it after all these years of watching movies and foreign films and international movies, and it's just part of it, But it's great. I mean, it still holds up, like I said. I mean, I saw it when I was, my 4th birthday was the first year my dad ran it. So yeah, my 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th birthday was Destroy All Monsters,
wow.
and on 16 millimeter, and it was great, and it's still great. It holds up really well. Everything looks great. It's a beautiful movie. It's fun. It's got thrills, chills, and spills, and tons of monsters. So it's the most monster-filled one, I think.
Yeah.
My final thought is, if you needed one more reason other than Howard's high praises for this movie, there's a scene where a man jumps out of a window and it is equal parts horrifying and hilarious.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's horrifying. The guy's just like, I'm just gonna walk over
just like
here.
Calmly walks out the
window.
window.
Way they lead up to it, you're just like, oh, he's gonna go check the view, and no, he's jumping out the window. And you're kind of like left in a chill right up until they just hold on a doll.
Yeah, yeah. And then they have that shot. Yeah, they have a high shot of the guy dead on the beach or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's where the big gunfight comes down when they,
the gunfight on the beach.
Some of the non-kaiju stuff was like actually like pretty visually like just fun to watch too.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's super cool. It's like the secret agent stuff is really fun. You guys are really good at it.
Which I don't think every Godzilla movie, especially the American ones, really crack that code of like.
No, not at all.
What are the humans doing? Is it worth watching when we know there's a giant building-sized monster outside?
I remember when they were doing the first, not the first American, not the Roland Emmerich one, but the other one when they rebooted, when Legendary did it. I was working with Bryan Cranston, and I knew Bryan had just done Godzilla. So I was like, Bryan, tell me, what was it like? He's like, Howard, there was nothing to see. I'm like, no, come on. They must have had a maquette on set, or was there a giant tail? He's like, there was nothing. I'm like, how disappointing is that, Bryan? He's like, yeah, there was nothing. We just had to pretend we saw Godzilla. I'm like, oh my God, They didn't even build a giant tail just to have a tail, or he's like, nope, there was nothing.
Oh no.
I was sure I was going to get some cool shit. Like Brian was like, dude, they had a fucking giant Godzilla on set, and we did this with it. It was so over the shoulder stuff as a puppet, but no, sadly, it was not. So that was disappointing.
That is too bad. We're going to do that one down the road too. As I actually haven't seen that one yet, so I'm curious. But we'll cover that one as well a few episodes from now.
Well, there's plenty of them to cover. I mean, how many Godzilla movies are there?
We just talked about 38, I think, at this point, and I think that includes a couple anime ones that recently came out. So like 38 films. There's been a few TV series too, but yeah,
these are ones where Godzilla's in them, though, right? Like not like Kong Skull Island.
Oh my god, yeah. If you count or like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, the original one, like if you count those, like it's probably got to be in like the 50s.
Yeah,
maybe even more.
A lot.
But there's a ton. Yeah.
And I think they're just going to keep on making them more and more and more, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're never going to tire of Godzilla movies, which is wonderful. I love it.
It's a long-standing franchise for good reason.
It is, and Godzilla finally got an Academy Award. So
yes, time.
Yeah, took 70 years for Godzilla to get an Oscar. So
that's right.
How does 3-6 Mafia have a Oscar before Godzilla?
I know. This is one of those strange things about life.
Yeah, I would fail that trivia question.
We have one last quick segment we always like to do before we close out our podcast.
Sure.
It's called our What the Fandom segment, and it's just a moment where we can each take some time to plug something that we're interested in at the moment, something we're watching, reading, listening to. Doesn't have to have anything to do with Godzilla, monsters, or anything like that. Just something that you want to plug or shout out. And then after that, we'll close out for the night. Well, I'll let you go last, Howard, because I always forget to tell our guests about What the Fandom. But anyway, Khalid, What the Fandom with you?
Thanks for asking, Joe. My What the Fandom this week, I haven't been able to watch as much TV as I'd like, and it's getting to the thing where like usually it's like whatever my lady's watching, I'll probably just watch that. And so my What the Fandom this week is, thanks to my lady, it's the Showtime series Couples Therapy. It's like it's a docu-series where these different couples are working through their problems with a therapist. It's all filmed, and then like they'll do like certain scenes in their house. And I think what I really like about it, as opposed to like a lot of reality TV that covers the same ground as this, is that it doesn't ever feel like anybody in the production is trying to get anything out of the subjects. It really feels like everybody is kind of volunteering the information. And I don't know, like your mileage may vary on that, where like you just go, okay, well, it's like they're being very guarded, or like they're only showing you what they want to show you. But I don't know. I'm not like that. I'm not that cynical. So like whenever like somebody tells me something about themselves, I believe it. And so like when you have these people like in ostensibly therapy, just really like getting into like the nitty gritty of like their relationship, and it just had made me like unlearn a lot of the stuff that I'd watched like reality TV, where like as soon as you see characters come in and it's like they tell you like the first thing about each other, you go, oh, this is that type of character, this is that type of character, and you kind of start classifying them. This one really just like lets them be people. So like even if like you may have an opinion of them going into a scene, coming out of the scene, you just like, you kind of throw all that away and you start just taking them at their word. And I just thought that was like such a delightful way to portray characters in something that is supposed to be reality. So yeah, that's my recommendation. I only caught a couple episodes of, I think, the third season, but I'm going to go back and watch it. It's really good. And my lady also says that it's really good throughout. So it's not just like, oh, I got the 3 good episodes and you guys are screwed. So yeah, check it out. Couples Therapy on Showtime. And Joe, what the fandom with you?
Thanks for asking, Khalid. Mine's actually kind of connected to our conversation. I just finished the audiobook of the book Kaiju Preservation Society from John Scalzi, who's a sci-fi author. I read a couple of other books. He has a kind of a fun meta story called Red Shirts about kind of a Star Trek style universe. But the audiobook was narrated by Will Wheaton, which was a lot of fun. And it's just basically a story about the year 2020 during like amidst the pandemic, about a kind of an average guy who gets recruited to this secret society that goes to another, parallel Earth to help preserve kaiju over there, because their radioactivity essentially lessens the barriers between our Earth and theirs, and they have to kind of monitor that. It's really fun. Like, got a lot of fun like pop culture kaiju references, like the base that they work is Honda base, and there's like Sobijin, the little fairies is the helicopter they use. So a lot of like references to Godzilla, which is really fun. It's kind of like the equivalent of like a popcorn flick in book form. Like, it's not really like super deep or like super heavy, even though they're like sometimes will address like heavy themes. It's just like all has this like sense of levity that just makes it kind of fun and just like endearing and just like kind of an enjoyable read to like pop in it as an audiobook and listen to while I'm doing dishes or something and have a good time with. So just finished that, had a blast with it. It's relatively short. I think it was like an 8-hour audiobook. I'm not sure what that'd be in page count, but I blew through it pretty quick, and I had a good time with it. So that would be my recommendation, the Kaiju Preservation Society. How about you, Howard? What have you been into lately?
Well, let's see. I'm going to talk about movies. So,
All right.
I'm a big Ty West fan. I loved his movie X. I loved Pearl, and this weekend I went and saw Maxine, which I loved. And I've worked with Ty on a couple things, and these three movies really blew me away. And I thought he just hit a nerve. He struck a nerve, with X, and then following it up with Pearl, which was like, this weird, like Technicolor Wizard of Oz horror movie, and then Maxine is just the perfect like send off for 80s horror movies. He captures it so perfectly, and Mia Goth, who I think is probably one of the best actors out there right now. You can watch all three of these movies, and she is stellar in all of them, and really brings it. And it's just a super fun film, and it's fun to watch. Knowing the history of how Ty made his first movie. Like, X was shot in New Zealand, and all of a sudden they got hit with COVID. But New Zealand was, is an island, and they were isolated. They finished the movie, but they couldn't leave the island. So Ty and Mia Goth said, "You know what? Let's write a sequel, and let's see if we can get A24 to just throw us some money." And so they wrote it. They sent it to A24, and Ty said, "I just give me, a little bit of cash. I'm going to make another movie here. I might as well. We can't leave New Zealand." He made Pearl, which I thought was outstanding, and then, last year he did this Maxine, and it was just really fun, and it encompasses everything I loved about the '80s horror movies. It's cheesy, it's goofy. There's things that are ridiculous, but it feels real to a film that was made in the '80s. Like this is exactly how an '80s horror movie was and is and should be. And Ty really captured the flavor of it. So if you haven't seen those three films and you want to see it in that order, X, Pearl, and then Maxine, I strongly and highly recommend it, because they're three great films made by a really talented guy, starring an unbelievable actress. And there's, I'll just say this, in Maxine, probably the second best exploding head I've ever seen since Scanners, which that's the best.
Yeah, Scanners is great.
Yeah. And Ty really, he told me about, he's like, "Dude, wait till you see the exploding head." And I'm like, "All right." And then at the end of, in the movie, it's like, holy shit. And so as soon as I got out of the theater, I'm like, okay, second best exploding head of all time. So, but it's my, it was just fantastic. And I just love it. I love the fact that these movies are being made. When I went to the theater, they just ran horror trailers, films that are coming out, like M. Night Shyamalan's new film with Josh Hartnett, which looks super cool. It's a cool idea.
That looks fun.
Oh yeah, totally. It's what a good idea. And just all these horror films, and I'm like, I'll see that. and I like these sort of movies because I'm not a big gore guy, and I'm not a big, like, I really hate the torture films big time.
Same,
I don't enjoy them. I like good, scary movies. I like well thought out storylines. I like good acting. And these movies that Ty makes are those. I mean, they're graphic, but it's part of the storytelling. It's not just gratuity. Just gratuitous shit happening for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And then these movies coming out, I just love the fact that it's a whole nother level. It's like, this is what horror. Now we're getting back to real horror, guys. We're out of the world of the torture porn stuff that. I
Yeah.
really dislike that stuff, and that's not horror to me by any means.
Yeah.
But these filmmakers now they're really catching on to what's cool, and I think what it stems from is the filmmakers today they were kids in the '80s, so they watched all those movies and they're like, those are the movies I want to grow up and make. Which then also is cool for us because they're like, I also want all the stuff practical because that's what I grew up with. So Ty does very little CGI in his movies, and all the gore stuff that's in the film is all practical, and all the makeups and X and all that stuff are all practical makeups. But yeah, I highly recommend checking those 3 films out and going to the movie theater, and seeing Maxine. So it's where it should be seen on a big screen. It's really super fun.
That's awesome to hear. I'm really excited for Maxine. I saw the trailer so far, and it looks like a blast.
It is. It's great.
Well, again, I can't thank you enough, Howard. This was super fun to have you on. Your insights are always exciting and add a lot to the discussion. It's a blast. Like I've said blast again, but it truly is.
Thanks.
Is there anything that you wanted to plug of like your own work coming up, or anything that you want us to look out for?
Yeah, sure. I have a Netflix show coming up in December that I did with Peter Berg called American Primeval, and it stars Taylor Kitsch.
Oh wow!
And it's really super cool. It takes place in 1857 or something like that, right before cowboys came in, and it's about the Mormon militia. And it's really hardcore. It's 6 episodes. Pete directed all of it, so it was really a 6-hour movie we shot last year in Santa Fe for 7 months, and it's just a great story. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's filthy, it's disgusting. It's got cannibals in it, so it's pretty brilliant. Mark L. Smith wrote it, who wrote The Revenant.
Oh, cool.
Right. So yeah, he knows his shit, and there's it's factual. Like Jim Bridger is in it, who was also in The Revenant, who was a real character, a real person. Who helped Ford. He actually discovered Yellowstone Park. So and he has Fort Bridger and all that. But it's really great. Taylor Kitsch is fantastic in it, and Betty Gelfand stars in it too. So that's cool. And then I'm also writing another book with Marshall Julius called Making Monsters, and that'll be out September 11th, 2025, and it's about monsters and monster movies and how they affected us as kids and how they inspire us as adults.
Wow,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
And we've interviewed like over 70 people, and all different walks of life. Directors, actors, visual effects, supervisors, composers, of course, makeup effects. And one of my favorites was Tashaki, who directed Godzilla -1. We interviewed him, and he talked all about growing up loving Godzilla as a kid, and we're just waiting for his drawings when he was 6 years old, which he kept drawing Godzilla when he was 6 years old. We'll put that in the book. So, but it's going to be a really cool book, and kind of the same format as Masters of Makeup Effects, but a richer dive into the world of monsters. There's so much about monsters we can talk about. So it's going to be great.
Wow, that sounds great. I'm very excited for that. I will be on the lookout for it, and you can absolutely come back on to plug that when that's out too.
Yeah, I would love to. That'd be great. I'd appreciate it.
Find another monster movie. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about.
There's plenty. Yeah. Yes, we never run out of monsters.
Yes. Before we close out, just wanted to a little bit of housekeeping. We do have a Patreon. If you can, our podcast is a labor of love. We're trying our best to put this out without ads and anything else like that. So if you're interested, find our Patreon. We have Frankenbits short episodes if you join at the $3 or the $7 level, or you can just join at the $1 level and we'll give you a shout out. Thank you. But thank you to all our patrons who have already joined us. And if you're interested, check that out. Otherwise, like us, find us, share us, give us 5 stars. All that stuff helps us get to more listeners. So that would be super helpful. You can follow us on FrankenPod on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, those places now, and connect with us. Maybe give us a suggestion on the next monster movie to check out after we're done with KAIJUBILEE.
Come say hi.
Yeah. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Khalid.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, Howard, just echoing everything Joe said. It was so great to have you back. We got to get Marshall back now. You guys are both just like so unabashedly proud of your fandom, as well as like your contributions to the like history of monster effects. And it's always just like so illuminating having you on. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. All right. And thank you all for listening to another episode. And until next time, creep it easy.